Hey, so today I want to talk about something weird again, but I want to talk about parenting. I guess it's kind of about parenting, but I guess more of what I want to talk about is just being a good parent in general and understanding your child better. Now, I'm not I'm not a parent. And I know like a lot of times when you don't have children or like a lot of people like to say, well, you can't have an opinion on things and you can't have a viewpoint on something if you're not doing something. Like, oh, you can't have you can't have like a thought on how relationships work because you're not in one. You can't think about parenting because you don't have children. You can't do this because you haven't done this, but you can. Just because someone doesn't do something doesn't mean they don't know anything about it. But I'm not a parent. I'll probably never be a parent, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't like children. But one thing that needs to be understood about being a good parent, and it's something that blows my mind that is so fucking difficult for even like like just anyone. Like I don't understand how no one fucking figures this out. But it seems like parents just don't know how to give a single shit about their child, like at all. Like how hard is it to give the slightest sliver of a shit about them? Like how is it really that hard for parents to do that? Because there's so many parents. There are horrible parents, there's abusive parents, there's drunk parents, there's and then there's parents who are bad, but they're bad in like a different way. They're bad in like a way where they shove an iPad in front of their kid or they rely on other people to take care of their kid. Like they're there, but they ignore their child in favor of just kind of shoving things in their face and hoping that the child kind of gets away from them. Well, there's other parents who are just abusive or terrible at what they do. And people on especially on the internet love to fight about what's good parenting. Like so many different things about like their child, right? And there's so many things that parents want to like force on their child at a young age where they're like my child needs to understand this at a young age, this adult topic. And it's like no, your child doesn't fucking need to know anything. Give your child some toys, play with them, care about them, teach them to read. Like what the fuck, like is it really that difficult? When your child is small, your job is to take care of them and make sure they grow up to be happy and healthy. And at some point, your child will grow and they will eventually come to find their own self because you do not dictate what your child becomes. You cannot force your child to be something. You shouldn't force your child to be something. Your child is not yours to dictate the life of. You do not tell them how to think, what to do, what job they should have, if they should go to college or not, what friends they should have, who they should date, what they should do. That is their life. And I get like when they live in your house, they live by your rules. That's fine because that's kind of a thing about parenting. You set rules in your house, things your child does not do, right? But the thing you do not dictate is them as a whole. It's different if you're like, please take your shoes off when you enter the house. That's fine. Like, hey, don't be loud at like 9 p.m. That's fine. But it's different when it's like, hey, you can't be friends with that person. Hey, you can't eat that type of food. You can't go to this place. You can't I don't know, watch that movie. I don't fucking know. Just like a bunch of different things where it's just like there's so many different kinds of parents and it's like none of them are good at all. Like strict parents, like all they do is they restrict their child from doing anything and it makes their child like fucking break down into like this crazed mental state where they just want to constantly do bad things because they're just like I want to because they're parents, they got to get at their parents, they got to stick it to them. Like fuck them, I got to destroy shit, I got to show them what they've done to me, right? It's like some weird thing. There's abusive and drunk parents who take their life's anger on their kids. They have unfulfilled dreams and they want to be mad at their child because they blame their child being born for it. But at the end of the day, you're the one that fucking had the child. So maybe take responsibility, dipshit. Sorry. I. I have some bad parent. I've heard there's a lot of bad parents out there, and I know quite a few. And a parent who just shoves things in their kid's face and then just kind of is like, yeah, this will raise our child for us. Like, that's no way to have a fucking child. Like, a parent needs to be there for their child. You need to raise your child. You need to teach your child some things. But when they're young, play with them. Teach them to read, teach them to talk, teach them to do whatever, take them to a park, let them have play dates, let them have fun because they're a kid. They're meant to have fun. They're meant to grow. They're not meant to be sat down and taught some shit that you want them to think. They're not meant to be hurt. They're not meant to be ignored. Your job is to care for them until they are old enough to think for themselves. But some parents don't want their child to think for themselves. They want their child to think like them. And that's fucking awful. Because your child should get to think how they want to think. It's their life. They may be your child, but they're a fucking separate person. They're a completely different entity other than you. Well, they're not a different entity. They're human. Sorry. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But they're not you. And a child should not be forced to be like their parent. It's different if like there's a father who runs a father or mother who runs a company and the child's like, I want to work with you guys when I grow up, and then they do. That's different because that's the child's choice. But you can't grab your child, drag them down to like a farm and be like, you're farming with us, when they have like an aspiration to be like a dancer or a scientist or an astronaut or just something. You can't tell them what they can and can't do with their life. Like, it's one thing to like give advice, like if your child grows up to and be an adult and has an alcohol problem and you want to like talk to them and be like, hey, you're going down a self-destructive thing. That's different. That's helping. But you can't dictate the entirety of their life. It's asinine. It's pointless. It's stupid. And you're just getting in the way, and you're severing all ties with your child because they're not going to want you in your life if you can't care about them. Because that's all you have to do is care about them. Like, who cares? Like, wait till your child is at least a teenager where they can think about their own things, where they can live their own life. They can make their own friends, fall in love, do whatever the hell, find themselves. Because most of the time when you're a teenager, some people don't find themselves until they're way later, but some teenagers do. Some teenagers like kind of figure out who they are, what they want to be, what their life needs to be, what they were going to work for. And the reality is that's their goals, that's their life, and that's their thoughts. And a parent has no right to tell them otherwise. It's different if their child's like, I want to be a murderer. Then I feel like a parent should probably step in. That's a bit different. But I'm talking about like if someone's like, I want to be a rocker. I want to get a motorcycle and like ride around and look cool in leather. Just like harmless stuff where they're just like, I want to have fun. I want to do what I want to do. And that's what a child should do when they grow up, is have dreams, aspirations, and find who they are as a person and not be told who to be. No one should tell anyone who to be. A parent has no right to tell a child who they should or shouldn't be. The teachers do not have a right to tell a child who they should and shouldn't be. The government does not have a right to tell you who you should or shouldn't be. That is up for the person who is finding themselves. That person is their own. They do not get told who to be or what to do. They are themselves and they live their life. It just sounds like I'm just saying nonsense because I'm just kind of like yelling and I'm moving my hand a lot, but no one can see it. But yeah, you be a parent. You listen to your child. You talk to your child. And when they get older, you should try to be a person they confide in with their problems, someone they can talk to, and someone that they trust. Because if you give them a shit childhood where you're just a bad parent, when they're a teenager, they're not going to talk to you. You'll know nothing about your child. Your child could have a fucking drug problem and you would never know because you didn't give enough of a shit about your child to care about them. Your child could be in with a bad crowd and you wouldn't know because your child doesn't want to fucking talk to you. So, look, the point is, just care. That's it. When they're young, you care and you be there for them and you take care of them, you play with them, you let them have fun and you let them be happy because that's what a child is supposed to do. A child is supposed to be a child. They have fun. They do not need to worry about things like taxes. They don't have to worry about things like whatever the fuck else there is to think about, like politics, identity, and all that kind of shit. They're just kids. Just let them play with a toy. Just give them whatever toy they want. It doesn't matter what they want. If they want a race car or a Barbie, none of that shit matters. Just say, hey, what toy do you want? They point at it, you give it, then they play with it, and you play with them, and you talk with them, and you have fun with them because they're your child and you take care of them. And when they get older, the repayment that they give you is that they trust you and they love you and that they give you their trust and love and you talk to them and you know them. So when they have problems, they come to you. And when they're older, they'll still come to you and they'll talk to you and they'll want to spend time with you, but you have to just care. And that's something a lot of parents can't seem to fucking do. And I know a lot of people with bad parents. I know a lot of people with just terrible shit. And it sucks. It sucks because it just seems like a good parent is fucking impossible. And granted, I won't shit on those parents who have children that end up just doing bad things on their own, because there are parents who have been good and some kids just go off and are horrible. Like sometimes people like to always blame the parents when like a child ends up bad, but sometimes there are just children who are born bad. It's actually pretty common. But a lot of the time children are bad because their parents were horrible. So it's not always 100% the parent's fault when a child ends up being a bad person. So you can't always fault the parent, but you have to understand who that parent is and what they've done with their child to understand why their child became the way that they are. But all I'm saying is to be a good parent, you care, you take care of your child, and when they grow up, they will care about you, you care back, you talk to them, and you offer as much advice as you can for their future, but you don't tell them what to do. You just say, hey, just, always always do good things, try to like look out for yourself, don't, do drugs, just generic shit. Just try, just care. That's it. So yeah, whatever. I don't know, weird video, but it's a topic that I think a lot of people can understand, and I can understand it. I don't have a very good parent life or parent related stories, and I know a lot of people that that don't as well. So yeah, just be a good parent. It's really not hard. Just care about your fucking child. That's it. You don't have to spoil them. You don't have to ignore them. You just fucking care. That's it. But yeah, anyway, whatever.